When the 2020 pandemic happened, we saw the stock market crash at some of the fastest rates in the history of time. Now, let's take a step back and talk about this. When the stock market goes down, what should you do? A, should you buy? B, should you sell? Now, it might seem obvious. If the stock market is going down, it's a great opportunity to buy. But what do you think actually happened? Is it A, were people buying, or B, were people selling? Well, let me just show you. When we got news of the stock market falling, we also got news of people selling out of their retirement portfolios because people got scared. This is emotional investing, and we have seen this in every single market downturn. We have seen this in every single recession. Now, there's two reasons why this could happen. Reason number one is people that are trading or investing in margin, meaning with debt. And then you're forced to sell off your investments because the lender, your brokerage, says you have to sell because you're underwater on your investments. You don't have an option here. But then you have option B, which is the people that are emotionally investing. You're investing for the next 40 years, the next 30 years, the next 20 years. But then you see what happens over the course of 1 week, and now you get scared, and now you sell. And this, unfortunately, is the emotional investing that ends up killing so many investors. But it doesn't just happen on the way down. You also see it on the way up. Because when you see investments going up, what happens? Well, you hear people talking about it on the news. You hear people talking about on Reddit. You hear people talking about it on your Discord channel. You hear people talking about it in your group chats. Now you don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out on the next hot stock. So then you start buying. And immediately, as soon as you start buying, what happens? That stock always starts to go down as soon as you start buying. Why is it that always you start chasing the stock, it starts to go down? Well, this is what impulse investing is. This is emotional investing. And that's why I always say you don't want to be investing based off of emotions. You want to be investing based off of financials and trends. See, most people are focused on the news. I want you to focus on the trends. And this is really a wealth killer because it forces you to buy at the wrong time, and then entices people to sell at the wrong time. So we all know buy low, sell high, right? That's how you build wealth. But what ends up happening to most people is end up buying high and selling low, and then you end up making somebody else really rich because you were so focused on your impulses and your emotions as opposed to the financials and the long terms and the trends. And instead of capturing opportunities, you're giving opportunities to somebody else. And that's where you got to be able to separate the emotion from the trend. Now, one of the easy ways to do this is just to understand the news from an unbiased source. That's why I created Market Briefs as a free and easy to read newsletter that breaks down what's happening in the financial news. You can read it in less than 5 minutes every morning and it's completely free. If you have not joined Market Briefs yet, I got the link for you down in the description below. The fifth biggest wealth killer are your short-term loans, where you're getting close to the next paycheck, but you got to pay for your groceries, you got to pay for your rent, you got to pay for whatever expense that comes up. And so what do? You go get a short-term loan. You use your credit card to finance these things. And let me just show you how dangerous this is, because right now the average credit card debt in America is right around $6,500. That's how much the average household with credit card debt is carrying. The average APR, the average interest rate on this credit card debt is right around 27% a year. Now, let's assume that you're like the average person and all you do is you say, oh, that's not that big deal. I'm just going to make the minimum monthly payments. You know what that means? That means I'm going to pay $150 a month. And you might say, you know what, it's not that big deal because it's not that much money. I can afford to make it, but it helps me get by month to month because now I can buy those groceries. I can go on the little vacation, buy myself a little nice thing here and there, and I can pay for my car expenses. So you pay $150 a month. You don't think that much of it, but the amount of money you're going to pay in interest on this $6,500, it's going to take you forever to pay it off. And the reason why is because you're going to pay, with these numbers right here, more than $18,000 in interest to pay this off. That means it's going to cost you more than $24,000 to pay off your $6,500, more than 18 grand going into your credit card company's pockets. And this is at a 27% interest rate. When you go and get a payday loan or those short-term loans to make ends meet for the 2 weeks or for the month, you're not paying 27%. You're paying 50%. You're paying 100%. Now, sure, you're paying it back with these small little fees, which might not seem like huge percentages, but when you annualize the amount of interest that you're paying on the small little flat fees, this is how much you're paying. When you pay a 27% interest rate on $6,500 with the minimum payments, this is how much you're paying in interest. It's even worse when you're getting those payday loans. And so this is where the better thing to do now is not to get that little extra cash boost to get by paycheck to paycheck. It's now to suck it up a little bit and see where you can cut back, see where you can earn some more money to make it without making somebody else rich. Because unfortunately, the credit card company, the payday loan company is soaking it up. They are milking you and they are getting rich off of your bad financial habits. But it doesn't have to be that way. And it starts with you making the decision to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop making you rich. I'm going to stop making you rich. I'm going to stop making you rich so I can make myself rich. And yeah, it's hard because that means you got to sacrifice some nice things, right? I get it. It is difficult, especially when you're used to a certain lifestyle. But if you can stop giving this money to them, you can start keeping this money for yourself. And once you start keeping it for yourself, you can start using it to make you even more money. The sixth wealth killer is impulse purchases. Back in the day, we'll call this 10 years ago, an impulse purchase was you go to Macy's. You're walking down because you need to get a sweater, but as you're going to the sweater section, you see a nice pair of pants. You see a nice jacket. You see this nice watch, and you say, ooh, that looks nice. I'm going to get this. Maybe I don't need it, but I'm going to get it. $200 extra down the drain. And those impulse purchases used to only happen when you go to the mall or when you go to the grocery store and you buy your groceries. But now it's become so much easier to make these impulse purchases because when you go and shop on Amazon, because I shop primarily on Amazon, they are very good at knowing what you want. And they're very good at suggesting things that you might want. You don't even know that you need it. And now when you're on this TikTok shop, you got people telling you what type of salt you need to buy, what type of soap dispenser you need, what type of pants you need to wear. I mean, there's just everything on the TikTok shop that's making it so easy to buy things. And so it's become so much easier to do these impulse purchases. But I'm going to give you a little trick that you can do that can help you save so much money in these impulse purchases. Because if you give yourself what I like to call the 24-hour rule, what you're doing now is you might find something that you like. You find a new watch that you want to buy. You put it aside, but you don't buy it that same day. You give yourself a rule that you're not going to say no, you're not going to say yes, you're just going to say maybe. And you give yourself 24 hours. You have to actually wait the 24 hours, which is where you sleep on it. And then you wake up the next morning in a calmer mind and you say, do I still need that watch? Do I still want that watch? And if the answer is yes, and you can afford it, you're giving yourself the permission to buy it. But if you say no, now you don't buy it because these impulse purchases can add up very quickly. Like the easiest way to have an additional $5,000 a year is just to not spend an additional $14 a day. If you can keep that $14 a day, you're going to have more than $5,000 at the end of the year just because you did an impulse purchase a lot of things that you didn't even need in the first place. And the grand finale, the seventh wealth killer that I want you to understand is to never blindly listen to a random guy on YouTube. Now look, I talk about me being a random guy on YouTube all the time because I'm not here to give you financial advice or talk about what I do, but I want you to take this from a broader perspective and understand that there's a lot of people on the internet. There's a lot of people with opinions on the internet. There's a lot of people with different thoughts on the internet. And every single person has a different opinion, they have a different thought, they have a different risk tolerance, and they have a different goal than you. One of the reasons why I don't give stock picks is because what's right for me is probably not right for you. My goal is probably not your goal. My risk tolerance is probably not your risk tolerance. And so now when you go on the internet, everybody's telling you in the financial space, buy this, sell this, do this, don't do this. And I try to make it a priority and important thing for me that I never try to tell people, go out and invest in real estate, or you have to invest in stocks, or you have to invest in index funds, because for some of you, you might only invest in real estate and build your wealth through real estate without touching the stock market. Some of you are going to build wealth through the stock market without ever touching real estate. Some of you are only going to want to invest in index funds. Some of you are only going to invest in mutual funds. Some of you are going to do everything. And some of you are going to go out and build a business and never invest your money into any other asset. So there's a lot of ways to go about doing this. And you got to be careful now because everybody on the internet has an opinion and they talk about their own opinions. But you got to be careful not to let somebody else's opinion become your fact. And this is where being able to dissect opinion and fact is so important, but also then on top of that, because I think there's a lot of good education on the internet. In addition to that, you also have some not so good education of people trying to sell you a system or this idea or this dream. You pay me $997 and I'm going to show you how I can get rich in 6 months with my 6-step system. And I'm not saying online education is bad. I think there's a lot of really good online education. I have spent tons of dollars on online education, but there is also the small sect of people that are just trying to sell you a dream, which is not going to make you any money, but it's going to make somebody else rich. And this is where I want you to take things with a grain of salt, but be able to analyze and apply things to your own life. In business, one of the things that we like to talk about in our own company, Briefs Media, is there's a lot of different opinions on how to do things. Like if we're trying to improve our search engine optimization, people will say, these are the 5 steps to get your website onto the first page of Google. You do these 3 things, these 5 things, and you're going to be able to get on the first page of Google. But if everybody is now learning how to do this, everybody's going to be doing this, and now it's the mass market. And this is where one of the things that we talk about is, okay, learn from other people, but how do we apply it to ourselves? And the way you apply it is by innovating, not copying, but innovating. And that's what you should be kind of doing, is you learn from people and information, whether it's on the internet, whether it's on podcasts, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's through books, whether it's through classes, whether it's through coaching, and then you learn to apply things to your life. You can't just blindly carbon copy somebody else and expect it to give you the same results. It does not work like that. You got to be able to learn, and then you got to be able to apply, because that's where the real wealth is built. If you enjoyed this clip and you want to continue your financial education journey, I have another video that I think you'll love. All you got to do is click that button right over there. And for those of you who want to stay up to date on the top finance and business news, you can join Market Briefs, my free financial newsletter, by clicking that button below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.